Welcome to the Aviassist Focus Sessions. The Aviassist Foundation has been promoting aviation safety for over a quarter of a century, since 1995. In the Focus Sessions, we inform, inspire and entertain African aviation safety. We talk about things that are crucial if we want to continue to raise the bar on safety in Africa, and we introduce you to inspiring safety professionals. Today we're talking about how we can improve recruitment and retention of next generation aviation professionals. We're also continuing with our popular prize draw. In this draw you have a chance to win $100 in cash in each episode. Entering the prize draw is also one of the certification criteria if you want to qualify for a certificate of attendance. The other criteria are that you must watch 100% of each session and that you score 70% or higher on the end assessment that will become available after this broadcast. But it will only be available for 48 hours after the broadcast, so that is why we encourage people to watch the live broadcast. The prize draw basically does two things for us. The first is that this game will give you some insight into what inspires my guests here at the table. What stories, what memories, what anecdotes appeal to my guests at the table. And the second reason is simple. It gives you a chance to win $100 that you can use for your Christmas shopping in a couple of months from now. You'll see a web address at the bottom of the screen. At that page you can submit the 3 letters that I'll give you throughout the broadcast, and that, together, form a 3-letter code. Every 10 minutes or so we'll show you one of the favorite books of a guest here at the table. And all you have to do is write down the first letter of the first name of the author. And you'll end up with a code. You enter those letters on the Google form page and then click Submit. You can only submit your code until 15 minutes after the end of this focus session. From among the correct answers, we'll draw one lucky winner and we'll send that person her or his $100 by mobile money. And we'll announce the winner on a LinkedIn page, so that's a good reason to follow the foundation on LinkedIn. Now, before we get into the discussions here at the table and look at the next generation aviation professionals, for those of you who maybe don't know much about Aviassist, allow us to introduce ourselves with this short video.
Africa, a continent on the rise. Africa is the world's second biggest air transport growth market, and there is a lot to do. Africa is in the process of giving the continental aviation industry a place on the world map on all fronts. This requires unprecedented efforts, even more so in a post-COVID-19 recovery. It means eliminating a backlog, but also respecting sustainability and CO2 emissions, building safety on the ground and in the air with technical and operational training. More than ever, international cooperation is vital to give what is arguably the most important economic link between Africa and the rest of the world, connecting people across the vast distances in Africa. An essential link, and that's why there is Aviassist. Africa and Aviassist. We have been leading, building and supporting safety promotion for the African aviation industry since 1995. Affordable, independent and professional. We stand up for aviation safety in Africa. We change attitudes and produce safety. Our professionals support African professionals, and we do it with passion by delivering on-site and online courses across Africa and more. Aviassist. Join us in Kigali or anywhere else on the continent. The African aviation industry needs you right now, more than ever. Aviassist.
That's us. Passion for safety in African aviation since 1995, powered by volunteers. Now, today we're talking about how to attract enough youngsters into our industry. How do we engage with the next generation aviation professionals? I'm joined at the table by 4 guests from across the industry. What does a future aviator actually look like? How does he or she think? And what do they want? We have a sample of that species here in the studio with us. Jens Jeukens is a student at the Aviation Academy of the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences and is here to help fossils, old men oisés like myself, understand the brain of a future aviator. Welcome, Jens, to the studio.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Nice to have you here as well, indeed. Then there's a growing disconnect between the labour market in Africa and the skills and competencies taught during education. How do we repair that disconnect? Team leader and lecturer aviation operations at Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences, Diarto Alders, will share with us some insights into how to repair that disconnect. Karibu, Diarto, as they say in Kiswahili. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much, and I'm delighted to be here.
Next door to you, basically, here in Amsterdam, so that's very convenient indeed. We'll also talk about how we can improve recruitment of next generation aviation professionals. With safety being all about people and the human factor, can selection and recruitment help us increase safety? Here with us to share his experience on recruitment for aviation is John van Harteveld, recently retired Managing Director of aviation job agency Skyjob. John, very pleased you can join us in the studio here today.
Absolutely, my pleasure to be here as well.
Thanks. And we also want to look actually as to how to make those new aviation generation professionals, true safety champions. And joining me here at the table is someone with 20 years of experience in safety promotion at aircraft manufacturer Boeing, Chamsu Anjurin. Chamsu is also one of the founding fathers of a young organization, the Aviation Safety Alliance for Africa. Bienvenue dans le studio.
Merci, Tom.
French-speaking Africa is also important, you keep reminding me. Now, with your experience and expertise, we'll focus on how to make aviation an attractive career choice for youngsters. Jens, let me start with you. Many people in Africa only think of becoming a pilot, an air traffic controller, or a cabin attendant when they think of jobs in aviation. Was that the same for you? Was it your sole intention initially to become a pilot or an air traffic controller when you left secondary school?
Yes, it actually was.
Okay.
But then the COVID-19 pandemic hit, so I needed to rethink my career choices due to the pilot schools in Europe were closing down. There was a lot of uncertainty in the aviation market. So my dad is actually a pilot himself, and he told me to first focus on a degree, and then after that focus on if I want to proceed to becoming a pilot. And that actually changed when I started doing my studies at the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences. And now, I want to work in the airline management.
Okay, so in a way the corona pandemic gave you a new perspective on aviation.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. It taught me many things about what I maybe prefer doing instead of what I thought I wanted to do.
Because sometimes for me, and I'll come to you in a moment as well, Diarto, from the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences, it's the Aviation Academy, so outsiders might think you only train pilots, but the contrary is the case. You do not train pilots, actually you train people in aviation operations, aviation engineering, and Jens, you're currently studying there. What would make an interesting career for you in aviation, you think, if you look a few years ahead?
I want to look at where to operate an aircraft. So I want to look at what destinations to fly to. What does a potentially profitable route network looks like? That's actually my dream to do. And
so network planning, those
network planning, yes, that's my ambition. But I also am really interested into perhaps starting my own airline or managing an airline. That's the ultimate goal.
The ultimate goal. And next to you is one of the people that taught you in the past at the MSF, Diarto.
Yeah.
What do you see if you look at these new students, coming into the aviation academy of the school? What do you think they want out of? I mean, yes, we all need money, obviously, so money is an important part of it, but I presume it's not the only part. What kind of motivations do you come across for people who want to enter aviation?
Yeah, as you said, and what Jens also experienced, the first year students that we have coming into the university, most of them they just want to be a pilot. We usually ask who here wants to be a pilot.
They all raise their hands.
They all raise their hands, of course. And then during the program, we expose them to all the different areas of aviation, and all of a sudden they find out that there's something such as network planning, there's something such as logistics, there's something such as more really operational things that you as a passenger take for granted, but are actually also really aviation-related jobs that are super inspiring. So over the course of the program, the students find out all these different subjects that they then get inspired by and forget about being a pilot because there's so much more.
Yeah, there is. And I think what's also always interesting, and maybe Chamsu can draw from his experience in a moment, but there are many more jobs in aviation than just pilots in terms of volume. I mean, the needs yes, the industry is growing in Africa, but the volume of pilots is relatively limited if you compare it to ground handling or network planning. We need many more people there. John, you headed up an aviation employment agency that focused, amongst others, on aviation jobs. Recently retired from there, but
yes,
what did you see? Did you see a change in the last 20 years, perhaps, in what motivated people, what people wanted from their career in aviation?
Yeah, I think that the majority of the people still want to work in aviation, although there is a slight shift because of the future of aviation. But over the years, you always see a wave of ups and downs in the aviation industry. And as Jens told us about the COVID, of course, it has a downside on aviation as well, and the people that want to work there. But then after a couple of years, you see that growing again. So yes, there is still a need for people that want to work in aviation, and there are still a lot of possibilities. Although, as they already told, the majority wants to become a pilot.
Yeah, initially at least.
Yes, that's still. And our recommendation is always finish your study first, and in those 4 years, you become to realize that it's not only a pilot, but it's a ground handler, it's the planning, it's the commercial side, it's the airport, which is a complete different game than a ground handler or an airline. So you have already 3 different, and before they start, they hardly know, they want to become a pilot. But what does the airport do? What does the ground handler do? What does the airline do? That's completely
far
different.
less known, Yes. And I think what's also interesting, something we discussed in the discussions we had beforehand, and that links to the point I think that Diarte was making, is that those cycles mean that also in Africa sometimes there is an opportunity in aviation, sometimes there isn't. I think one of the points you brought up is when you have a grounding of a more generic degree, it also means you're less reliant on purely getting a job in aviation, because if you learn IT skills, or I think that was a point you also brought up, isn't it, Jamsu? That means people can transfer if the demand is low somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's good to keep the employability high so that you can adapt to the market conditions. But luckily, you can still have a passion for aviation and get a job in aviation in many fields.
Yeah.
The interesting program that Jen mentioned earlier, the network planning, it's
marketing, legal,
optimization, resource management, and you can apply it to many areas in your life and in the economy. So there's a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, but I think also that takes away the danger of, when there is a dip, like you said, in aviation industry, which sometimes happens, like in Corona, then you have skills that you can apply in other sectors. Because there is quite often, if the young people we've seen in Africa sometimes get very frustrated because they think, I have done an IATA diploma of 6 months. That means I'm one of the best, the people with most knowledge from the youngsters in Rwanda or in Kenya, but they don't get a job. But partially that's because they miss those generic skills, I think, sometimes indeed in IT, etc.
Actually, you finally started already during the COVID period that people were changing jobs. but the skills that they had because of their aviation studies were so broad that they were also could also be used by the railway stations because that continued.
Yeah.
There was no dip in rail transportation. So a lot of people shifts from the job from aviation, and now they're returning, or at least
Some
if
of
they
them.
want to.
Yeah,
Some of
yeah.
them they can return. So there are absolutely possibilities during those.
And actually, COVID exposed some people to other jobs, and they realized that it broadened the opportunities. That okay, now I'm in a different industry, and maybe I don't want to return to aviation again.
Yeah, because
which is not good for us.
No.
At least it gives the people opportunity to choose.
And I think also what we have to do a little bit better in Africa, perhaps, and people now in Africa have to do a bit better. There are currently very few vocational or universities in Africa that teach more generic skills. You know, very often it is really an aviation academy that teaches pilots. There's only a few places. I think of Kenya, where I used to live for many years, where they have a civil aviation management degree, but that still currently is not so common. Those kind of more generic degrees. For reasons of time, because we have 4 books this time instead of 3, I have to go to the first book for today. Neil deGrasse Tyson. So the only thing that's important for the viewers out there is the November. The first letter of the first name of the author that you have to fill on the Google form. And then later on you'll get more of those. Very quickly, I think, Diato, you took this to the studio?
Yeah.
Briefly, in a summit. Why did you bring this one?
Yeah, so astrophysics for people in a hurry. Great title. It's written in a kind of style, I think, that's accessible for everybody in such a way that you can grasp the concept.
And what did it do
well.
for you? Why is this book important to you?
It really gives you a view of the broader universe and how big the universe actually is, and it makes all the problems and the challenges that we have here on Earth, it just makes them very small and
Insignificant almost.
Insignificant, yeah. And that just is the beauty of reading about
The universe.
Yeah, it just puts everything in perspective for me, and I like that.
Thanks very much. Thanks for taking it to the studio. John, if I can go back to you.
Yes.
With this background in an employment agency. Aviassist is all about safety promotion, as you know, so we're interested in the next generation, but we also hope to make them safety champions. From your background in 20 years plus in recruitment, do you think we can select better for people that are more likely to be a safety champion? Is there things you can do in selection in taking care of really finding the people you want?
Yes, on one hand, you can do it during the selection. What I also experienced, that people that like to work in safety, sometimes, like the starters on the aviation studies, during their study, they have a certain interest in certain areas, like the network planning, because nobody thinks before they start, oh, I'm going to become a network planner. They don't think about that. But during the study, that's also with safety, with quality assurance, with the YAR 145, the technical requirements. And during those studies, they found that it's apparently very interesting, and it differs per person, because some of the students are very meticulous and want to have everything top in order. And what I did during my selection based on CVs is how CVs were written down, because some were very organized, very neat,
detailed,
and some were in the flashy way. They said, "Oh, this is for sales and marketing," and this one was so accurate. Oh, that could be a safety or a quality assurance employee. So, based on those criteria, you can already do some shifts.
Some shifts, because we need more safety champions, I think, Chamsu, isn't it?
Yes, and not only in operation. I think safety is a mindset, and it affects all employees of a company, of an airline, not only the one in operation. It should start at the boardroom.
With the management of...
The management, so that you have a true leadership that trickle down to the operation. And if you are safety conscious in your personal life, then you can ensure that you participate to the safety of your customers, the safety of your operation, and all. It's not dissociated. It all comes together. So it's about recruiting, training, and practicing.
And changing that attitude. I can see, Jens, you're itching to say something.
Yes,
Go ahead.
I want to also talk about like the safety management system of an airline. I think that's also one thing that's really important, because that gets taught to all employees to encourage making reports on accidents, on safety issues. And I think that's actually one thing that you can't really make a selection on, but you can train people to make those calls to
report issues.
To report issues and improve safety that way.
Is that something that you got taught or get taught in your degree, safety management?
Yes, I did get it taught in my studies, but I also work as used to work as a baggage handler at KLM, and now I work as a gate agent at KLM Cityhopper. And there they are putting a lot of emphasis on the safety management system. So you are really encouraged to make a report. And I think that's also one of the things that's very important. If you want to truly improve the safety culture within a company, then it's also like starts in the training.
And you're lucky, I guess, because the opportunity you have as a student in Western societies to have a job on the side of the airport is unfortunately not so common in Africa, because there's much bigger competition for those jobs. So professionals will take those jobs, but that might change one day. I think actually, speaking to you, this is your book?
Yes, that's my book.
It's written by Lois Jones, so the Lima is the one that is important for the viewers out there. In a nutshell, why did you bring it to the studio? EasyJet?
Yes, I think I like reading about aviation books, and about books about low-cost carriers. How did they start? So I've also read the book about Southwest, their story. I've read
Southwest Airlines in
Southwest
the US.
Airlines, yes, in the US. Yeah. I've read the book about Ryanair, and now I'm reading the book about EasyJet, and it's really, for me, inspiring to see what someone who has a dream to make aviation affordable, and to make sure that in EasyJet's case, Europe is more accessible for a lot more people. And I think
flying is more accessible.
Flying is more accessible, yes, and that's why I enjoy reading these books, and I also enjoy reading about airline entrepreneurship. So
we should try and make sure that we get a book about some of the African low-cost carriers, because they are there. FastJet and JumboJet.
Yes,
and some of them.
FastJet. Actually, the article told me that EasyJet is investing in them.
One of the founding fathers of FastJet were EasyJet.
So that's why I choose to bring the book.
We have to take a short commercial break for a message from one of our sponsors, ATR, aircraft manufacturer ATR.
My name is Maodo, and I'm from Senegal. I'm 25 years old. I'm flying for Air Senegal in West Africa on ATR 72-600. They still got that hand flying part, which is very important for pilots who want to learn it, because we'll be doing short takeoffs, short landings, and that's a full glass cockpit aircraft, one of the best, I think, in the turboprop engines for all aircraft. Short flights, I will do a lot of takeoffs and landing during the day. If you fly it in 8 hours or 10 hours, you would just do one takeoff, one landing. The rest of the time you won't do that. So that's my choice, and I recommend that to all other young pilots to do the same.
Well, we're very grateful for our sponsors, as you can imagine, because we cannot do our work without their support. This was aircraft manufacturer ATR. Back to the discussion here at the table. Actually, Diarto, if I can come to you for a moment. In the introduction, I briefly spoke about the disconnect between what employers want and what training institutions sometimes train for. Now, reports in Africa show actually that that disconnect is growing. So whereas we would hope they would talk more to each other, it seems they talk less to each other. You mentioned to me that also at the Amsterdam University of Applied Science, that's something you work very closely on, very seriously on.
Yeah.
Would you have any suggestions based on your experience how the industry and the educational institutions can repair that disconnect?
Yeah, like you said, it's about communication and remaining involved, and we're currently rebuilding actually our entire curriculum, and part of that is transitioning into a community of practice, which is a term that is coined some time ago that's being used by more and more fields, and it's really the integration of different groups of people to work together. So in our case, that is
To create a new curriculum, that's what you're saying? Or?
Not necessarily the
Okay.
curriculum, but really to build a community. So we have the education institute, we have the students, and then we have the aviation industry. And we're working on bigger problems, and then every company might have a specific area that they are interested in. And then our students can work on that, and we bring everybody together. We run that from the university, but we make sure that everybody works together. So also the different companies, they sit at the same table, and we meet and we discuss what is it that we want these students to work on in the upcoming couple of years, or which projects do you want our students to solve. So it's really about bringing everybody together and building a curriculum that is relevant, because it's very easy to just do what we did. We're all out of the industry, right? So we can just play the old tricks, but then we get exactly this disconnect that you're describing.
But I can imagine that's not always easy to
Of course not.
No, because otherwise it would have been done before, I presume.
Yeah, so that is indeed a challenge, and people have personal connections, and it's hard to expose those connections, put them out on the table and say, let's just share all of our connections. But I do think that is one of these steps that need to be taken to really get that cooperation going to build a better curricula.
And to make sure that Jens and Jens's colleagues in Africa have an easier transition to the labor market.
Yeah.
As an addition, I think that is how it works at the moment. So it's not only reading the books about how it is on an IATA course, this is the theory, it's more the practical side, where
skills,
studies,
basically,
practical skills. And that's why students in Holland are also used to work in a company as part of their study, to have an internship of about 5-6 months presently.
6 months, yes.
6 months. And that is so much value for those students, but also for the companies that want to hire people. And it's most of the time it's even already a step for the students to get acquainted with the actual jobs.
With possible employees in the future, yeah.
Absolutely.
And Chamsu, if I take that back to your 40 years of experience in aviation, most of it actually related to Africa, is that something... I mean, how have you seen that disconnect? Have you seen the disconnect in daily practice?
Yes. 60% of the population in Africa is less than 25 years
of
old,
age, yeah.
Of age, and then they are trained for irrespective of the job market. So sometimes they are not relevant to the industry needs.
So they do a training that nobody is really looking for.
It's a waste of resource, it's a waste of time, it's even for the personal life, it's a challenge. So I think the way forward is to build that bridge between industry and academia to identify the needs, even if it's small at the beginning, but leave room for continuous learning to adapt to the market growth.
And I think what's also very important, if I can just come in here, is that we speak about degrees and universities, but if you look at many places in Africa, what they need more is people with vocational hands-on training, because it's great to have people with a PhD in aviation engineering, but what one there needs, what Precision Air needs, what ProFlight needs, is people who can maintain an aircraft. So perhaps it's also sometimes too much a focus on those more academic degrees as opposed to practical.
Because it's easier actually to teach mathematics, which is good actually, but it's easier to teach law, mathematics, and
Be
all
careful
those
where you
things
go.
than to practice.
Yeah,
Because the
hands-on.
hands-on training requires more resource and more infrastructure. So
Why does it require more infrastructure?
you need to be in industry that is growing, and then you need people that are available in that industry to coach the trainees, and sometimes the business requirement are such that you don't have that time
To coach somebody.
So you cannot
into...
really bring to the interns that are coming in, and the interns are also, sometimes it's a waste of time for them. And then...
Oh, that's how they see it anyway.
Yeah. On the other hand, if you give them a law training, you don't need all that. They are brilliant lawyers, but you don't need them.
So there's quite a gap between the actual study
Yes.
and the practical side that
Yeah.
employers need.
Yes.
So it could be a good suggestion to have, at least on a small basis, as
To
Jacques
start
was
that.
telling, to start with a company or
Yeah.
few companies,
Yes.
with a university or the.
So we have done
schools
that.
too.
We have done that when I was in Ghana. We realized that the university wanted to develop a degree in aerospace engineering, and we realized Ghana Airways was planning to have its own school. The Air Force is planning to have its own school, and we brought all of them together and said, okay, this is you want to do this, you want to do it. Now you are all together. What exactly do you want to do that is meaningful for all of you? So it's
pooling of resources.
Pooling of the resources, and after 2 or 3 days of exercise, we came up with a curriculum that the University of Kumasi could implement, and it worked for everyone. So the Air Force, the airline offered internships to support the university program. They even offered use the airplanes or use the equipment for practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a very successful
excellent solution.
initiative.
Yeah. I have to come to the fourth book, which is The Human Ribosome in Health and Disease, written by Kodjo. I think the C is the important letter, Charlie. Briefly, Chamsu, this is your contribution. It has nothing to do with science with aviation, but that's fine, actually.
No.
So how come you're interested in ribosomes?
First of all, the author, Kodjo Ontonji, Professor Kodjo Ontonji, is my classmate. And then a friend. And he has spent 45 years doing this research, and he came up with the conclusion that all our health and disease history is linked to the ribosome.
And the ribosome is something inside the cell structure.
Yes.
You told me beforehand.
Yeah. So it's very complicated for us. But
especially for a lawyer. But
but I was amazed by the work that he has done. So I decided to bring that book here to open your eyes on this.
Yes, so we'll all have to read this afterwards. We'll take the title. Thanks so much,
Thank you.
Chamsu. Right, we talked about this disconnect. We talked about selection for safety. We saw just a video from ATR where you saw a pilot, and unfortunately it reinforced the idea maybe that we only need pilots, but I think at the table we agree it's good to have pilots, and we need pilots, but we need many more people that have other skills. Jens, you spoke about the network planning. Chamsu, where do you think if a country in Africa would want to set up a training institution which would not be focusing on pilot training or on maintenance of navigation aids, what could be a good starting point? What kind of training curriculum should they offer?
I think most of the airlines in Africa lack management skills. And that is an area where it should be seen first as a business. So entrepreneurial aspect should be developed. Of course, there are business schools that that can teach that, but applied to aviation is quite specific.
Yeah.
And the other areas is operational. You still need to maintain the aircraft to a certain level, so at least people who knows what to do, how to do that, and you need to load the airplane, so you need the
ground
skills.
handling that we both spoke about.
Load planning.
Dispatchers needs to. That's also a requirement. So these are the things that you should start supporting the industry with the basic requirement. Then, as you grow, you can concentrate the other aspects in few countries, in few schools, and then spread them as the industry grows. Yeah.
And one thing you're always a big proponent from as well is your French background, also rightly so, makes you say that we also have to be careful of or not careful, but you have to be making this kind of training available in different languages.
Exactly.
Because for some people,
sometimes we think that English is the aviation language. It's not that true. Many people don't speak, although the English is not that great, so they don't understand necessarily what pilots do, probably. And even then, there might be some challenges.
Yeah,
but most people in other areas, in Francophone area, don't necessarily speak English. But so we need to address the needs as well.
Yes. But I think in reality we also see as Aviasis is not just in the Francophone part of Africa. It's also people that work on the apron quite often, for example, may have very limited English skills, even if they are from an English-speaking country. Because, like you rightly said to me this morning, before we made this program, is that yes, people may learn in school how to make basic conversations, but that's not the same as being able to have a technical conversation or an operational conversation.
It happened to me. I left my English classes with prices, but when I started working and a few days in my job, I was sent to Tucson in Arizona to attend a meeting.
That's a challenge.
Arizona. I was very sure that it would be easy because I had a good first prize in English. But when I got there, the first day I couldn't understand what was being said.
Yeah.
So I had to go back to the hotel, put on the TV.
Yeah, that was very interesting.
Do some subliminal learning before the next day I could understand half of what was going on.
Yes, I think that's a message to those next generation aviation professionals out there. The fact that you can learn, you can improve your English if you so want, whether you're Francophone or Anglophone, by using available tools that are for, BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, you name it, or like you in your case, CNN, maybe in the US. Just listening to them and hear more of the pronunciation would certainly help. We have to come to the last book of today, the fourth book. So for a change, we have 4 letters this time and not 3. The Undutchables by Colin White and Laurie Buchel. So the C, the Charlie, is the letter that's important to you out there for the prize. John, you took this to the studio in a nutshell. Why this book?
It's a nutshell because I'm a lover of books of John Grisham and Ludlum, those
thrillers,
books, thrillers. But this book, I always brought it. Before I worked for SkyJob, I worked for Martinair, traveled around the world to deal with ground handlers, making contracts. So I visited a lot of countries around the world. And I came across different cultures, America, the Texas type of Africa, the Far East. And I become to recognize a lot of different people around the globe. And the Dutch people are very proud on themselves. So, and actually, this is a kind of a mirror to the Dutch people, how different people from abroad look at the Dutch people. It's very funny written. So actually, it was written, the first edition was written in 1990.
Yeah.
And it's still on the market. Now, Amazon, it's still there because
other brands are available. Yeah.
It's still available. And I brought it with me when I visited people where I had meetings with. Sometimes
so they could prepare for your coming.
Gave them as a present. Whenever you come to Holland, this is how the Dutch are from an American couple perspective that lived and worked there. So it is absolutely very funny.
And I think it's important for us as aviacists as well, because we take a lot of people from outside Africa to work with African experts, and very often they have little or no knowledge of Africa. So we do spend some time telling them something about it. Maybe we should find a book, Chamzu, that helps them prepare for their work in Ghana or Benin in your case. Well, I think we're approaching the end of the time we have available today, which is always unfortunate. It always comes quicker than I want anyway. But the next generation aviation professionals means the future. So we'll have to find time in the future for some more discussions about these next generations. Then maybe also Jens will find an African student that we can
Yes,
put next to put you. Thank you very much for joining me here in the focus sessions today to help the industry with recruiting those next generation aviation professionals into this wonderful domain of aviation. Then to you, lovely viewers out there, from Rwanda to South Africa to Botswana to Ghana, thank you for tuning in for safety. If you enjoyed today's focus sessions, please be our ambassador. Tell your friends, your colleagues, your future colleagues about the work of Aviassist. If you want to continue free learning for safety, visit our YouTube channel where you can watch previous focus sessions in your own time, whenever you want. You will have to join us in the live broadcast to qualify for a certificate of attendance. Come and visit us at our first Aviassist Safety Promotion Center, the ASPC Rwanda. Lots of exciting courses coming up at the University of Rwanda, where we are hosted. We'll be bringing a 4-day aircraft maintenance management course to Kigali, an airport wildlife management course, a human factors course, and an airport obstacle limitation course. So this also shows lots of different jobs and careers available. Join us again for another focus session later in the year on the 26th of November, which is World Sustainable Transport Day. And that next episode will be all about sustainability and safety. Same frequency and a chance to qualify for your certificate of attendance. And please don't forget, only you can target safety. Join us for the next focus session as we continue our mission with you to improve African aviation safety. Same time, same frequency. For now, we say Zikomo to our Chinyanja speakers, and thank you to the rest of you. Have a good day.